Welcome back, Endgame community. I'm Pierre, he is Chris. Let's talk about some running backs that you probably aren't drafting. These are handcuffs. These are the guys who are the backups and not necessarily going to be featured in their team's offense, but these are the guys that sometimes turn out to be league winners. We're going to tell you who the top picks are, and let's start out with yours, Chris. Who's a handcuff running back that you're keeping your eye on?
I don't understand why Darrell Henderson has kind of been forgotten in drafts this year. We just saw one season ago when Darrell Henderson was given the chance, he was very, very good. Scored over 15 PPR fantasy points in 7 of his 10 starts last year. Had 8 touchdowns in his 12 games played. And if something is to happen to Cam Akers, which happened to him last year, Sean McVay fully trusts Darrell Henderson. Even last year, there was talk about, the running backs that the Rams drafted late potentially having a role. Then they went out and they traded for Sony Michel, and people thought he was going to have a role, but none of them did. When Darrell Henderson was healthy, it was just Darrell Henderson getting the bulk of the snaps and the bulk of the work. Now, sure, in the Rams offense, it's going to be centered around Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. It's going to be a pass-first offense, but he's still a guy who's going to get 12 to 15 carries, 2 to 3 catches with tons of touchdown upside should something happen to Cam Akers. And let's not forget, Cam Akers coming off Achilles. If he has any kind of setback with that Achilles or maybe to the other leg, from some kind of compensation injuries, Darrell Henderson is going to step right back into an every down role for one of the best offenses, and we already know he can do it. So I don't understand why Darrell Henderson is going after some other handcuffs that I don't think have nearly as much upside as he does.
Look, Cam Akers is one of my guys, and I'll have him probably more than a lot of other fantasy managers this year, but absolutely can't deny that he comes with a lot of risk. So Darrell Henderson also consequently has a ton of upside. So agree with you there, one of the highest upside handcuffs. So when I look for a guy who has a lot of upside that isn't necessarily a starting running back and isn't in a committee, you have to look at the offense. So a run-heavy offense like the Chicago Bears, well, I'm going to have a lot of David Montgomery this year. He's the RB2 I'm probably targeting the most. But what happens if, like last year, David Montgomery goes down and misses some time? Probably like last year, it's going to be all Khalil Herbert. So in 4 games where Montgomery was either completely out or limited, Herbert ran for at least 70 yards in all 4 of those, and in his 2 starts, he ran for 97 and 100 yards. Now, keep in mind, this was last year in the Matt Nagy Bears offense. So imagine what he could do this year in an offense that should definitely be better, should definitely be schemed better, and also be more efficient with Justin Fields now in his 2nd year. And I think it's going to be even more run-heavy offense because this defense should be a little better, hopefully, than last year. Behind Montgomery and Herbert, all you have is Darrington Evans, a guy who really hasn't even played much in Tennessee and just latched on to be maybe the 3rd down guy or occasional change of pace guy. And then they have a rookie, Treston Ebner. There's really no depth here that they can rely on in running back. I think that Herbert has so much upside that if you draft Montgomery, you almost have to draft Herbert in the later rounds to make sure that you secure his backup. Let's go to another running back you think is worth taking a look at.
Speaking of running backs who we saw miss time last year, how about Derrick Henry? He's 28 years old. He's right at about the 1,500 touch mark for his career. We know the Titans want to run him into the ground. Can his 28-year-old body with 1,500 career touches handle being run into the ground this year? It couldn't last year, so there's a chance it won't this year. And who's next in line? Well, not Dante Foreman. He's in Carolina now. Not Trenton Cannon. He's not very good. Dontrell Hilliard, he didn't really do much last year. How about the rookie that they drafted, Hassan Haskins? This is a guy who basically fits the Derrick Henry mold. No, he's not Derrick Henry. He's not as good as Derrick Henry, but he's a bruiser. He's 228 pounds. He had 270 carries his last year at Michigan. He can step into a 20-plus carry role in this Titans offense. And even last year, when Derrick Henry went down, there was talk that, now the Titans are going to have to throw more. They didn't. They still ran the ball a ton. If Derrick Henry is not able to withstand 350 to 400 carries this year, Hassan Haskins is going to be the guy that they're going to use to take on that role. He'll be a solid, every week, must-start running back if something should happen to Derrick Henry.
And he's one of the best values because really nobody is drafting him, even as a handcuff, even late. I mean, he is basically a dart throw, but one that could pay off massively. Let me talk about another former Michigan Wolverine running back that I like even more, and that's Chris Evans. We've seen that Joe Mixon has been pretty durable over the last year, 2 years, but of course things happen. But here's the other thing. We've started to hear a little bit this offseason that the Bengals might want to cut down on his workload, especially in passing downs. One thing that made Mixon so valuable last year is not just that he played a full schedule and scored touchdowns because of the offense he's in, but he was more involved as a pass catcher. He set a career high in receiving yards last year. But we could see that go down because this is a team, now that they know they can go all the way to the Super Bowl, they're going to want to preserve him for the playoffs. One of those reasons they could do that is because they have a guy like Evans, who at Michigan showed that he is not only a solid between the tackles runner, but a really good pass catcher. I know Samaje Perine has been the backup, right? He's the guy who really saw the work last year. Evans really didn't do much as a rookie, but we're hearing that he could be more involved this season. There's a good chance if he has a solid training camp, he beats out Perine straight up for the RB2 role and becomes the third down back. Obviously, don't need to tell you that in Cincinnati, that's going to bring a lot of value. But then again, if you think about if Mixon does go down, all of a sudden Evans becomes a must-add on the waiver wire. He becomes a guy that you absolutely want to have in fantasy. Why not draft him now and save yourself the trouble? All right, one more handcuff that you're taking a look at this season.
How do you fade a running back whose nickname is the Warrior? You can't, right? You can't fade that guy. And you can't fade Matt Breida this year. And look, I love Saquon Barkley. I was all over Saquon Barkley last year, really hoping he could, buck the trend and come back from ACL in year one and crush it. He didn't, but oh well. I hope he does it this year. I really hope he stays healthy, plays all 17 games, and crushes it this year, and I think he will. But this isn't a guy who's been a beacon of health in his NFL career. And who's behind him? Matt Breida. And then you have Gary Brightwell, rookie last year, didn't do anything. And Antonio Williams. Breida is the guy who's going to step in should something happen to Saquon Barkley. And we saw it last year. Devonta Booker, who's not a very good running back, had some nice fantasy games and got some decent volume in this offense when Saquon Barkley was out. And I think the same thing will happen for Matt Breida. So Breida, another guy, kind of like Haskins, who really isn't being drafted anywhere. Even in deep, 18-round best ball drafts, I rarely see Matt Breida getting drafted, but he has a ton of upside should Saquon Barkley go down. I hope it doesn't happen, but history says it might, and if it does, you're going to wish you had Matt Breida.
Yeah, again, nobody is really remembering Breida because, he hasn't gotten a lot of action. He's been a little bit of time here with the Dolphins and the Bills last couple of years. Look, in a couple of games with the Bills, he actually was really good last year. So that leads me to my last pick, and that's Tyrion Davis-Price. I've been an Elijah Mitchell truther since last year. This year's Elijah Mitchell, well, it might not be Elijah Mitchell. It might be Ty Davis-Price. There's going to be another running back who gets involved in this offense, just the way Kyle Shanahan's offense is run. But they drafted Davis-Price for a reason. They drafted him because Mitchell was actually not very effective on those really short, either goal to go 3rd and 2, 4th and 2, or shorter. They need somebody who can get between the tackles and really grind out those tough yards. Mitchell wasn't that great at doing that. Not surprising because he's not a bigger back. Davis-Price is a big back. He specializes in that, and he's even said he loves the contact. He likes to bring the contact to the defender. They drafted him to be that guy. Now, you might think, okay, so he's just going to come in on really short downs, right? Short 3rd downs, maybe the goal line once in a while. But I don't think so. I think they're going to use him a lot more than you think. But also, we're talking about handcuffs, high-end upside later in the draft. Just imagine what happens if Mitchell, like last year when he missed several games, does go down. All of a sudden, you have the featured back in Kyle Shanahan's offense. And this is an offense that for 5 straight years has had a different leading rusher. This is a guy who might be this year's Jeff Wilson, Raheem Mostert, guy who comes out of nowhere, really, not drafted in most leagues, to be a league winner. So Davis-Price is a guy I wasn't even really on before the draft, but the more I look at him, the more I like what he does, the more I like what he can do on the field. So he's a guy I'm drafting as much as possible. All right, those are our favorite running back handcuffs. Guys, let us know if there's somebody else you keep your eye on. Join us in the Discord. Check out the description below, and you'll find the link that you can join us and talk fantasy football all year long. All right, thanks for watching.